Turkey today is no longer has this Kemalist secular oversight, if you want, of society. But in reality, when you looked at Turkey historically, I mean, you look at Turkey ever since Kemal came to power in 1923, it was never secular. The society was not secular. It was a state that was secular. And everybody else bought this adage that Turkey was secular.
Okay, can I get Alkin to follow up on that?
Sure, I think we have to read what really happened in the military correctly, because it's actually the military apparatus and the high command early in 2000s that came up with this idea that holding on to secularism this much actually alienates a large portion of society and disrupts military's popularity among the public. So that's why I think Justice and Development Party did not actually break military secular oversight. It was first the military who actually suggested this idea of military not insisting on its secularist stance so much.
How long do you think it's going to take before it's all said and done and you know who your representatives will be?
Well, I think, as we saw, we've got a pretty good idea of the results from the first round of voting. So it's not that extended a process. I think the more elaborate process will come once we know the various forces that will be represented in Parliament, what sort of consolidation will happen in Parliament, and how the various political factions will relate to each other. Obviously, one thing that people will have an eye on is how the Muslim Brotherhood relates to the Salafis. They have a potential to have a super majority in Parliament, and that obviously has people quite concerned. And whether the Brotherhood will draw bright red lines between the Salafis, who they agree with on many issues, but obviously that type of political consolidation would make Parliament an intra-Islamist affair, and I think would be quite worrisome to Egyptian society and the international community. And so how they relate to each other is a process, I think, that will take weeks and months to get a good sense of.
Can you tell us why you think Calderon went for an all-out war on the drug cartels?
He turned to what he felt, and I would disagree, but what he felt was his best tool and option at the moment, which was calling out the military and helping, not only confront organized crime, but trying to restore some sense of order and protection on the streets of Ciudad Juarez and Morelia, Michoacan, and other places. In the end, that strategy has not turned out to be very effective. It's exacerbated conflicts between organized crime groups. It's as been indicated here, it's sort of a one-note strategy. It's not a more diverse strategy. The Mexican government, to their credit, has articulated a fuller, more complex strategy of institutional reform and strengthening, social investments. But at the end of the day, the emphasis has been primarily on what's known as a high-valued target strategy, going after leaders of particular organizations. That's where the real emphasis is. And that is, at the end of the day, in my opinion, what's contributed to a dramatic rise in the violence in Mexico.
In reality, I think what Russians are going to be looking for is a few key concessions from Putin. Maybe it means some kind of recount or reshuffling. It definitely means more transparency so that they feel that when they make a choice, when they announce that choice publicly, be it on Facebook or be it at the polls, that they get some result that's meaningful. I think the other thing they're going to be looking for is fresh faces. And Putin can do that without removing himself. Yes, there's been a lot of talk about what if he stays on, a 6-year presidential term plus another 6-year presidential term. It's like he's been there forever. He's going to start looking like Brezhnev. That's true, but Brezhnev also surrounded himself by old men in uniforms. Putin can surround himself with young, dynamic people. He's tried to do it with Medvedev. It's become a bit of a joke, but there are others in the system, and if he's smart, I think he'll respond by doing that now.
I was so surprised about the liberal concepts that Canada has. When I arrived here, I came from a dictatorship. No, I came from a very polarized society, fighting with each other, killing each other. So if you make a comment, you have to be aware of the repercussions. And you see people here compromising, no? And try to give you your space. And I was not used to that. I was used to fight for everything that I belong to me or I want to have a position with. Canada was a totally different in that particular way. And I fell in love of that particular Canadian way of discussing, making points, talking first about the positive aspects, and then to say but. And all of this stuff for me were so fascinating, no? Because as a Salvadorian, we are more accepted and aggressive, and we say, no, you're wrong. And that was something that, and I said, well, I like this.